Once again, a very good evening to all the participants who've joined us. We trust and hope you are safe. ACREX will be happening in Bangalore next year, and if you would be keen to associate with us, we request you to kindly reach out to the ISHRE Bangalore chapter. I would now request Mr. Girish to please play the membership video. Thank you, Girish. If you are not a member already of ISHRE Bangalore chapter, I request all of you to please sign up with us. Mr. Girish will be leaving his contact details in the chat box and you may reach out to him to become a member. I request all of you to please sign up and make the most of becoming an ISHRE member. Moving on to today's session, which is an architect's guide to HVAC, it gives me great pleasure to introduce Ms. Vaidehi, who's also an alumni of my college and of the same batch. Ms. Vaidehi is an architect and urban designer and the founder and principal of Innovature Research and Design Studio, Bangalore. She graduated with a B.Arch degree from BMS College of Engineering in 2012 and received an M.Arch degree from Sir J.J. College of Architecture in 2016. She has worked with distinguished architectural firms and institutions before she founded IRDS in 2018. Her firm majorly specializes in residential and institutional projects. IRDS strives to create sustainable and innovative solutions for cozy private and public spaces to transform everyday user experience. She has written, presented, and published many papers in national as well as international journals. She, as a writing and research enthusiast, has also published a few articles in newspapers and magazines of national repute. We're very happy to have you, Vaidehi, with us. Over to you to take over today on today's session. Vaidehi, if you can unmute yourself, yeah.
Yes, thank you, Nisha. I hope I'm audible.
You're audible.
Great. I'll just be sharing my screen now. Hi, everybody. Thank you for being a part of this session, and I hope I get good views from all of you now. Just give me a moment. So again, good evening to all. And first of all, I'd like to thank ISHRE for giving me an opportunity to talk about a very rarely spoken topic, HVAC for architects. For some of you here who are HVAC professionals, this presentation could be quite basic, but rest assured, it will guide you all about your dealings with the architects. Also in this presentation, I'm not trying to present numbers and standards as we already find that in our very well-written ISHRE handbook. And it becomes very trivial if we go on with numbers in a presentation like this. So later on at the end of the presentation, I'll be sharing a PDF of a paper that I've written on the same topic. And then you can all probably get back to me with, my contacts are mentioned in the same, so you can get back to me with your questions. If Mr. Girish, if you don't mind, if you can switch off my video because my voice is getting stuck, I guess the bandwidth is low.
Yeah, done, madam.
Thank you, Mr. Girish. So starting with the presentation, let me just give you a quick glance of all the topics that I'll be brushing through in the course of this presentation. Now, my main aim here is to send a message to the architecture community about the importance of HVAC planning in the initial stages of architectural design and make them aware about the basics of HVAC that must be known to them in order to have a well synchronized HVAC system planned for their building systems. Most of us in our colleges tend to look at HVAC as that side subject that we have taken, and let's just not give too much importance to it. We just have to pass. But that's not how it works when you actually get into the profession. And hence, I hope what I talk about over here is not too technical and at the same time is not too basic for any of you. Most great commercial buildings of modern and contemporary era owe their existence in many ways to the HVAC systems developed and continuously being upgraded. Whenever people think about architecture, all that comes into mind is structure and design. However, what we overlook is that the life of any contemporary structure resides in a flawless HVAC system design, especially in the contemporary era. Generally, architects tend to outsource most of the HVAC jobs, and in the process, we tend to overlook the knowledge, the HVAC knowledge that we must have about our own structure. At most instances, the HVAC specialist comes into the picture at a very later stage. And by this time, the building is already designed. And then it becomes too tedious for us to plan out a well aesthetically inclined HVAC system. So there are some basics that we must know before we really start the initial concept stage of planning for our buildings. As designers, we understand the priorities and requirements of our structure and hence need to be capable of selecting a system that minimally impacts the aesthetics and functionality of our intended design. The displayed image shows how architect Holwich Kushner has used HVAC systems as an interior aesthetic element rather than concealing it and hence lowering the ceiling height of the space. Another example of something very similar where the HVAC ducts have been used in the exteriors. And this is again to add on to the structure, add on as a design element of the building by Roger Sturck Harbour and Partners. Now, other than the initial phase of installation, it is also important to ensure HVAC servicing, maintenance, and repair. A poor HVAC system planning can lead to serious economic as well as environmental consequences and unprecedented compromises in terms of architectural design. As most of us already know, HVAC stands for heating, ventilation, and air conditioning. This is the building system that regulates the inside temperature of the building and in some systems, the air quality as well. The two major aspects of HVAC design are basic theory of system operation and the factors that determine the size and capacity of the equipment installed in the system. Let's go on to talk about each of these individually. Harnessed to create warmth in interior spaces, common heating systems include boilers, furnaces, and heat pumps. In most cases, heat is distributed throughout the building using heated water, steam, or airflow. In the case of water and steam, heat is typically distributed through the building using radiators, which are mounted on the walls or embedded in the floor. In the case of airflow, heated air is distributed through ductwork systems, which return this air through metal or fiberglass ducts. Also, the air supply is usually filtered to remove dust and pollen. Ventilation is the process of removing and replacing air within a space in order to provide high indoor air quality. This includes, but is not limited to, oxygen replenishment and the removal of moisture, odor, smoke, dust, and carbon dioxide. Mechanical ventilation methods can include extractor fans and recirculation fans, whereas passive methods, which are commonly used in architectural design, include operable windows, louvers, and trickle vents. The image on the right side of the slide shows the ventilation concept of a typical building. Here, the key is the atrium. Atria typically involves large open spaces connecting multiple floors. These are often used as pump for drawing warm, stale air out from the adjacent spaces and exhausting them. The buoyancy or stack effect is the key of this design. It is reliable, unlike variable wind-driven ventilations. Atria, unlike most designs in HVAC, should be viewed as three-dimensional volume from the start of the project. Normally, the other engineering practices do not apply to an atrium. Let's move on to air conditioning, which is a very common term for all of us. What it does is provides cooling and humidity control for a building. In most cases, external air is drawn into the building, at which point heat is removed from the air using cooling refrigerants. During the cooling process, dehumidification or air drying also occurs. Let's now briefly understand energy consumption in all this. According to the US Small Business Administration, HVAC systems account for about 40% of the energy usage in commercial buildings. Consequently, the goal of any commercial building owner and government agency is to improve the HVAC efficiency to reduce costs, energy consumption, and the greenhouse gas emissions. Now, before we move on any further, I just want to introduce you to a few numbers which are important when you go ahead in HVAC design. And for this purpose, I have a very short video. You don't need to note down these numbers. In fact, you don't need to note down anything that I say in the presentation because, as I mentioned earlier, I'll be sharing a PDF at the end of the presentation with all of you, which contains all the data and thumb rules that you might need for later reference.
No volume, madam.
Yeah, it doesn't have any volume, any audio. It's just music, which might not work well in a situation like this. It might not be as clear to all of you right away, but later I have a video which helps you decode these numbers and really understand how to use them in your designs. Now, before we go further ahead, I will just mention some very interesting HVAC innovations. So solar powered air conditioning. Typically, when the hot sun is beating down on a building, it is it does not really help or help the energy consumption that our air conditioning systems are providing. Hence, these compact rooftop panels contain special mirrored lenses which automatically follow the sun's path, concentrating and capturing solar energy. That energy is then utilized by the building's HVAC systems, converting peak sun loads into efficient air conditioning. Another similar innovation is ice powered air conditioning. The Ice Bear is a thermal battery that transforms existing air conditioners into cost effective cooling machines. During the night, when the electric grid is less burdened, Ice Bear fills the water and freezes it into a block of ice. During the day, this ice is used to provide affordable air conditioning to the building without running the air conditioner's energy guzzling compressor. This results in 95% less energy use during the hottest hours of the day, drastically cutting both electricity bills and carbon emissions. Then DVAP air conditioning, the Desiccant Enhanced Evaporative Air Conditioner. It was developed by the National Renewable Energy Laboratory, is a new technology and has the potential to revolutionize HVAC industry. The device combines the cooling power of evaporation with the dehumidifying power of liquefied desiccants. Liquefied desiccants are the salt-like substances that are found in the do not eat packets that we get in things that we buy. To create an air conditioner that creates cold, dry air at a fraction of the cost. Although it's not yet commercially available, prototypes are being created. So another concept is sustainable retrofits. It is very important to replace old HVAC equipments at a regular basis. And this can be really expensive as well as time consuming and also chunky when it comes to moving. That is why Transformative Wave has developed a new generation of sustainable retrofit technology. The system is called Catalyst, installs directly into the existing rooftop units, endowing them with the latest sustainable features, economizers, variable fan speeds, demand response ventilation, smart controls, and automated capabilities, in turn leading to about 25 to 50% reduction in energy cost. And finally, recyclable ductwork. So not all sustainable solutions evolve or involve high-tech gadgets and need to be really expensive and need Wi-Fi connections. So Gator Duct is a simple cardboard product created with fire-resistant and waterproof coating that takes place of ordinary HVAC ductwork. These triple-walled cardboard ducts are stronger, lighter, cheaper, and require 20% less insulation than the sheets of its metal counterparts. The craft paper surface also allows the ductwork to be custom printed and decorative patterns and company logos. So coming back rather to the importance of HVAC planning in architectural design. The success of an HVAC system is directly related to the building's comfort levels, which we initially as architects kind of overlook. They also demand significant investment and cover a large portion of buildings' operating expenses. Hence, it is very important that the HVAC planning is done beforehand. So there are three major types of HVAC systems that we need to look at, we need to know about as architects. So basically, they are centralized systems, packaged terminal air conditioning systems, individuals, or decentralized systems. I'm going to talk about these a little later in the presentation. And one thing that I would like to mention is they work on three principles: thermodynamics, fluid mechanics, and heat transfer. Before we move on into the details of these systems, let me just give you a very brief about the various HVAC processes. They might sound very trivial to read about, but the fact is they formulate the crux of HVAC systems. Hence, going on further without mentioning this will be unfair. Heating, is simply adding thermal energy to a space. Cooling is removing thermal energy from the space. Humidifying is adding water vapor or steam to a space. Dehumidifying is removing water vapor or steam from a space. Cleaning is removal of dust, pollen, smoke, or contaminants. Ventilating is maintaining air and gas ratio by adding fresh air. And finally, air movement, which is exchange of fresh and stale air. So there are some components that I've listed here. I'm not going to read it out, but these are the major components that form the crux of an HVAC system. We are eventually going to talk about these components, not in detail, but just brush through. Now, an HVAC system has 4 major requirements. These are the primary equipment, space requirement, air distribution, and piping. The primary equipment includes heating equipment such as steam boilers and hot water boilers to heat buildings or spaces, air delivery equipment as packaged equipments to deliver conditioned ventilated air by using centrifugal fans, axial fans, and plug or plenum fans, and refrigeration equipment that delivers cooled or conditioned air into the space. It includes cooling coils based on water from water chillers or refrigerants from refrigeration process. Space requirements. I'm going to talk about the space requirements in a little details. So there are 5 facilities that are mainly needed. First is the equipment rooms. These are the most important spatial considerations since the total mechanics and the electrical space requirements range from between 4 to 9% of the gross building area. It is preferable to centrally locate these equipment rooms so that they reduce the long duct, pipe, and conduit runs and sizes to simplify shaft layouts and to centralize maintenance and operation. A space for HVAC facilities that houses heating equipment like boiler units, pumps, heat exchangers, pressure reducing equipment, control air compressors, and refrigeration equipment like water chillers or cooling water towers for large buildings, condenser water pumps, heat exchangers, air conditioning equipment, control air compressors. Then there are fan rooms that contain the HVAC fan equipment and other miscellaneous equipment. There are vertical shafts to provide space for air distribution, water, and steam pipe distribution. The air distribution contains HVAC supply air, exhaust air, and return air ductwork. Pipe distribution includes hot water, chilled water, condenser water, steam supply, and condenser return. The equipment room must allow the movement of large, heavy equipment during the installation, replacement, and maintenance. It is important that we as architects discuss the sizes of these equipments with our concerned HVAC consultant before going on and designing them. And hence, this is where we bring in our HVAC consultant into the picture at a very early stage. The design of the equipment rooms should consider the size and the weight of the equipment for maintenance as well as repair purposes. Now moving on to air distribution. Air distribution considers ductwork that delivers the conditioned air to the desired area in a direct, quiet, and economical way. This includes air terminal units such as grills and diffusers to deliver supply air into the space at low velocity. Fan power terminal units, which uses an integral fan to ensure the supply of air into space. Variable volume terminal units, which deliver a variable amount of air into space. All air induction terminal units, which controls the primary air, induces return air, and distributes the mixed air into space. And finally, air water induction terminal units, which contains a coil in the induction air system. Now, all the ductwork and piping should be insulated to prevent heat loss and save building energy. It is also recommended that buildings should have enough ceiling spaces to host the ductwork in suspended ceiling and floor slab, and can be used as return air plenum to reduce the return ductwork. The piping system is used to deliver refrigerant, hot water, cooled water, steam, gas, condensate to and from HVAC equipment in a direct, quiet, and affordable way. Piping systems can be divided into two parts: the piping in the central part equipment and the delivery piping. And HVAC piping may or may not be insulated based on the existing code criteria. So let's come back to the working principles of HVAC. So in the background, what's happening in the background of all the HVAC systems? There's an HVAC water chiller which produces chilled water, which is then circulated throughout the building or space with cooling coils in air handling units. Blowers move air on cooling coils, which are then distributed into various portions of space or building for providing comfort or preserving goods items as per the HVAC design. Air is distributed through the supply ducts and return air is collected into the air handling units with the help of return air ducts. Chilled water and cooling water pumps provide energy to keep the chilled cooling water moving. HVAC valves are also installed at various points in the piping to ease the maintenance of HVAC system or for the sake of system control. Now, this was an example of cooling a space, but heating air may be done with the help of HVAC heat pump, hot water generator, or simply by the furnace. And some industrial chillers also serve as heaters in winter season. Heating coils take place of cooling coils, in this case, of the heating mode. Coming back to HVAC systems, let's start with talking about the centralized systems. Now, as the name implies, a centralized system is a single system that supplies the HVAC needs for the entire building. This centralized system is generally located in a single zone. These systems are consolidated units and typically use water as a cooling medium and use extensive ductwork for air distribution. The advantages of centralized systems are that they are better to control and have greater load management potential. The major disadvantage of these is that they are expensive to install and are more sophisticated to operate and maintain. The image on the slide is Helmer Jahn's 24-story South Loop condo in Chicago. It features a completely concealed state-of-the-art centralized heating and cooling system. Moving on to packaged HVAC systems. Now, these are often used in buildings without adequate space for all separate components. Packaged heating and air conditioning systems are available together in one packaged unit. They include an air conditioner, a heat pump, together with evaporator, fan coil in one unit. Control or thermostat interface for the complete control of the system. Optional air quality improvers such as air purifiers, cleaners, ventilators, or UV lamps are also included. This image on the slide is 300 Ashland Palace by 10 Architects in Brooklyn. It features gray metal panels. These are punched windows and PTAG grills. So again, another example of how it has been interestingly used in the facade. Now, individual or decentralized systems. These provide energy using various individual units at various locations of a building. Examples of self-contained units packaged are rooftop HVAC systems, air conditioning units for rooms, air-to-air heaters. Now, the advantages of individual units are that they are easy to control and have lower investment initially. However, in large buildings, individual systems can become a nightmare to handle, to maintain, and to repair. It is important to consolidate systems that are likely to break or leak and are expensive to replace, whereas distribute the other things like fans and other terminal devices at different parts of the building. The image of the side interestingly shows a radiator designed by an industrial designer, Satyendra Pakale. Moving on to energy efficiency. This is one of the most important HVAC considerations. Energy efficiency considerations can be made at various stages as listed in the slide above. I'll be elaborating on these stages a little later, but before that, I would like to mention that HVAC has been criticized in architecture as a sole reason for increasing the energy usage of buildings. The confluence of new building technology and expanding cities has created scores of marvelous skyscrapers, from Seagram Building to Wills Tower. But the proliferation of air conditioned space and the types of buildings that have flourished under this new technology has shown the gleaming modern world that what it creates is far from utopian. But the most damaging part of this shift has been the cost in energy and carbon emissions of our cool new world. Artificial cooling has become such an energy hog and is so detrimental in efforts to fight climate change that skyscraper design has begun to shift back toward the vernacular techniques used in pioneering buildings of the late 19th century. The image in the slide shows Frankfurt's Commerzbank Tower, a Foster and Partners project that opened in 1997. It was considered one of the most eco-friendly towers at that time before LEED standards, utilizing daylighting and the air quotes new concept of openable windows. We are aware of the fact that weather variables affect the heat transfers in a building and increase loads on the HVAC. But data analytics, something which is very less used but should be used in providing visibility into our HVAC systems with sufficient accuracy that will help us take corrective actions and reduce the energy demands during peak load distribution of HVAC systems. Facilities Net states that HVAC system maintenance in commercial buildings is responsible for saving more than 40% of energy. Therefore, it is essential to utilize data analytics in understanding the effects of malfunctioning HVAC systems on energy use, energy consumptions, and energy demand. Now, coming back to the various ways in which energy efficiency can be achieved. Let's start with discussing about designing. Deciding on the HVAC design as early as possible ensures that the energy code requirements as laid out are met. And meeting these codes automatically help us achieve a particular level of energy efficiency. This includes the entire building's architectural and engineering requirements into the consideration of an ideal HVAC system. It is also important to keep in mind that safety factors of installing a large equipment, sizing is another consideration wherein HVAC systems are properly sized, including allowance for uncertainties. This would prevent excessive wasteful capacity by utilizing modular equipment that can be expanded in future should the need rise. Tuning is another important aspect. It is recommended to schedule biannual maintenance on your HVAC systems by licensed personnel. Major types of maintenance include replacement of air filters, clean transfer coils and heat pumps, air conditioners and chillers. It is important to inspect ducts and pipings to avoid leakage and damages, and regular inspection and repair of air ducts, fan motors, and furnace. Substantial savings can be achieved by adjusting temperature set points. Lower set points in the winter and higher temperature set points in the summer. One of the ways we can save on our clients' HVAC bills is to optimize the operation of the system. Setting the system off when the building is not occupied can do this. Utilizing the auto mode to let the fan run only when heating or cooling is needed. A programmable thermostat can automatically control to switch on and off the air in the room that is occupied, whereas the room that is unoccupied. Switch off during off-peak hours, as well as to program desired set points. Energy management systems or building energy management systems are computer controls that monitor and control a building's HVAC and other energy systems. This software controls the HVAC system and provides notifications and alarms when the HVAC system is not operating efficiently. BMs are often used in large and complex buildings as well as multi-site buildings. These systems are capable of controlling many different functions in a building and include intelligent reports to help identify problems and trends, provide recommendations for fixes, and integrate control systems to automate responses. Now, some points that can be considered for an energy efficient system include adjustment of air temperature based on indoor and outdoor temperature and humidity to let heating and cooling systems operate at most efficiency. Adjustments are required whenever you need cooling in the building, but outside the temperature is also low. With an economizer mode, your system can circulate outdoor air for free cooling during these periods. Implementation of holiday period, automatic set points adjustments, monitoring temperatures to minimizing overheating, etc. are some of the major points that need to be taken care of and must be discussed with the HVAC consultant before using them. Now, I'm reaching towards the end of my presentation. And as I reach the end of my presentation, I would like to highlight that an architect's role in HVAC design lies in clear communication with the HVAC consultant. The most important thing is to be able to express all of the stressors and demands that will be placed on the system. That way, the consultant will be able to ensure a system that will excel under those exact conditions. I've listed some important questions that must be addressed before plugging in HVAC systems. I'll just read them out quickly. What does the HVAC system need to accomplish? What is the local climate? How many people are going to be using the building? What time of the day will the HVAC system need to be in use? Do you need specialized ventilation or purification? For example, if you are building a laboratory or a hospital, you might need some special considerations. How big is the building and what is the volume of air that needs to be processed? Is this space comprised of few large rooms or many small rooms? Now, these are few and amongst the unending questions list, but I would like for all of you to contribute towards this question bank and please give in your inputs at the end of this presentation. Also, there is a link to a YouTube video explaining some common HVAC calculations and thumb rules, which I'm not going to play right now, but it is going to be there in the PDF that I'm sharing with you. So you can take a look at it because it is all numbers. And HVAC calculation thumb rules. It is 11-minute video, and I'm sure you will be able to relate to the video after reading or listening to this entire presentation that I've made. Now, before ending the presentation, I would like to just briefly touch upon IoT for HVAC. IoT is Internet for Things. Though it would take another long presentation to talk about this at length, I would just like to briefly throw some light on the concept of IoT and how it is striving to transform HVAC industry. The definition of smart HVAC has changed thanks to IoT. The industry has grown from thermostats with simple programming capabilities to include an array of sensor types that provide data to algorithms and apps to make remote adjustments. IoT devices communicate and analyze data to monitor and improve systems. The information collected is useful for automation, maintenance, planning, and optimization of building systems. The growing prevalence of IoT within residential and commercial buildings drives the industry towards more cost-effective and advanced tools for managers and owners to meet energy and efficiency goals. One way to effectively monitor electricity consumption and create a more energy efficient HVAC system is with a smart thermostat. I'm just going to show you some more innovations in the next slide. Let's talk about smart thermostats. Uh, these are being manufactured by a lot of companies now. To name some, Nest, Honeywell, Ecobee, Emerson. These devices connect to smartphones and tablets, allowing homeowners to control their heating and cooling systems from anywhere in the world. The thermostats can automatically adjust to suit the homeowner's personal preference, notify them of the maintenance issues, and help them monitor and reduce energy consumption over time. Digital ceilings is another such example. It is manufactured by Cisco. Now, this can be looked at as a future of building automation. These ceilings are equipped with variety of sensors, detecting motion, occupancy levels, temperature, carbon dioxide levels, and more, that converge the building's lighting, security, and HVAC systems into a single, easy to maintain, manage network. These adaptive sensors learn the daily habits of the building and its occupants, and automatically adjust air and light settings, maximizing comfort and minimizing energy waste. I've just listed here some of the references in case anybody would want to detail on any of the points that I touched upon. And I'll leave this list on for a bit while I state that as we work on an HVAC system as architects, the best complements that are the best options that complement our building type or space, we need to get in touch with our HVAC consultant, consider the efficiencies we hope to achieve, not just at present, but 5 to 10 years from now, and take into account rising efficiency expectations and potential legislative benchmarks. The system should not only provide comfortable conditions for its users, but be expandable in terms of incorporating sustainable, cost efficient components and adjust to the future needs. With this, I will be ending my presentation. Thank you all for patiently listening to my presentations, and I'll let the organizers take over.
Thank you, Vaidehi. I request all the participants, if they have any questions, to please post that in the chat box. In the meantime, there are a couple of questions. What are the challenges architects face when coordinating with HVAC integration? How can this be addressed?
Is there a possibility to show the questions on the screen? Unfortunately, the audio is a little poor on my side.
No, that was addressed in the chat box.
Okay, I can access the chat box.
One. I will just repost that question since it was addressed directly to me.
Sure.
Can you not hear me? If you want, I can read it out.
Breaking. Can you just pardon the question? Probably I'll hear you now.
What are the challenges architects face when coordinating with HVAC integration? How can this be addressed?
Okay. So, like I mentioned already, partially in the presentation, it is very important to respond to the HVAC needs of our building at the start at the designing level. Generally, the challenges we face come into picture only when we bring HVAC as an entity later on in our designs. Probably at a stage where the structural engineer, the plumbing and the electrical guys are already at work. And, now we are bringing in the HVAC guy who is trying to push in his equipments in the space that we have provided, or probably trying to achieve an efficiency which he cannot provide us without the kind of space that we have given him in our designs. So if we, the stage where we bring in other consultants, if we bring in our HVAC consultants, or probably earlier, we will be able to handle the challenges better.
Okay. There was one more question. What are some innovation in clean rooms from an architect perspective?
So it's a good question, but unfortunately, I am not very aware of the clean rooms. I haven't dealt with a project with clean rooms yet, but I can surely get back to you on that if you can get in touch with me, and just send me a drop in an email and I can check out the details and share with you.
Okay. I think that is all from the questions that we have from our participants. So on behalf of ISHRE Bangalore chapter, thank you Vaidhi for doing this session. At ISHRE this year, we are trying to bring on board and integrate all the stakeholders of our industry, right from architects, builders, contractors, consultants, facility managers. So that is going to be our endeavor this year. And we hope to see all of you in the next sessions. Thank you so much. Please stay safe and please take care. Thank you.
Thank you, Nisha. Thank you, ISHRE, for having me. Thank you, participants, for your patience.
There is one more question. How can an architect help to deal with COVID-like situation?
So this is rather a over-discussed topic, I would say. I have been attending a lot of webinars and a lot of discussions with similar questions. And my point of view is that during COVID, as architects, what we can do is nothing. But what we can do post-COVID is something that we need to really look at, fathom, comprehend, because that is when our kind of use comes into picture. What are the kind of spaces that people will need with the shift in this paradigm of work from home? How many people would actually go back to IT parks and would want to work in a scenario where so many people are stuffed into one building together? At the same time, re-looking at malls, how are we actually going to design a mall? How can HVAC really help us in purifying the air in spaces like this? And how can we architects design such spaces in order to make sure that people are not uncomfortable living together in such large groups post COVID?
Okay. Thank you once again, Vaidhi, for taking that question. So we will be ending our session here, and we look forward to having all of you in the future sessions. Thank you so much.
Thank you.